Yeah. Good evening, everyone in the gallery and joining us online this evening. I welcome you to the April 2025 Maribyrnong Council meeting. My name is Pradeep Tiwari. I'm Mayor of Maribyrnong City Council. I declare the meeting open at 6:35 p.m. Maribyrnong City Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung and Boon Wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation, and pays its respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to thank everyone in the gallery for joining us today, and I'd also like to request if everyone could please either turn your phones off or put them on mute for the duration of the meeting. And I'd like to advise that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Whilst all care is taken to maintain the privacy of members of the gallery, your presence at any time may be recorded. In accordance with Council's governance rules, I advise that this meeting may not be photographed, filmed or recorded without the consent of the Chief Executive Officer. I note that there are no apologies for tonight's meeting, and as per Rule 72.3 of Council's governance rules, I advise that Councillor Thomas and Councillor Pereira are attending this meeting virtually. Councillor Thomas, can you please confirm that you can hear and see the meeting? We cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you.
We can't hear you, councillors.
Councillor Pereira, are you able to respond at all? We can't hear them. So hold on, we can't hear you. Is there... Can one of the councillors speak to see if Councillor Pereira? No, still not. You're still not on. We're trying to just fix the audio. While we get to that, I just wanted to welcome the family of great man Les Twentyman. Thank you for attending tonight. Can you try again, councillors? Can you hear something? Okay, I think, I think we've got it. So I'll start again. Councillor Thomas, can you please confirm that you can hear and see the meeting? Can you hear something? Councillor Pereira? Okay, I think, I think we've got it. So I'll start again. Councillor Thomas, can you please confirm that you can hear and see the meeting? Can you hear something? Bit of a delay there, isn't there?
Should we turn the live stream off and just come back in when we have got it fixed? Otherwise, people are just listening to us.
So thank you for bearing with us there. I can confirm that Councillor Thomas and Councillor Pereira can both hear and see us. That's good. I'll move on. Thank you. I'll move on to leave of absence. Councillors, are there any requests for leave of absence? Nope. So we'll proceed to conflicts of interest. In accordance with Local Government Act 2020, does any councillor have a conflict of interest in relation to any agenda items? Nope. We'll proceed straight to public question time. We now proceed to public question time. Public question time is managed in accordance with Council's governance rules. Members of the public can submit a maximum of 3 questions prior to the commencement of the meeting. As Chair, I will decide who answers the question. Public question time is limited to 15 minutes, however can be extended with the consent of councillors. Council has received 24 questions tonight for the meeting. Let's start off with the first question is from Sevi Skiathaitis, asks the following questions. 1, in regards to TP 53/2021, open bracket, 1 close bracket, will the Mayor ensure that external lawyers, including a barrister, are briefed to represent Council at VCAT to avoid a conflict of interest for officers involved in prepping, reviewing, approving that officer's report? Just for clarity, I guess this question is being asked in relation to the steel cement proposal. So I might hand it over to CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know the Director of Planning and Environment, Mark McIntosh, has been looking into this, so I will hand to him to answer the question, please.
Thanks, Celia, and through the Mayor. Operational decisions such as whether to engage legal representation regarding a particular matter are the responsibility of the relevant director, which in this instance is myself, the Director of Planning and Environment, and we will be engaging a solicitor to represent Council at the upcoming hearings.
Thank you, and I'll move on to the next question. In regards to TP 53/2021-1, does any councillor accept as accurate the steel cement's air quality, traffic and noise reports provided to Council, or will councillors be obtaining a second opinion? I'll hand it over to CEO.
I could say my understanding, unless any councillors want to comment. No? So,
We might let you talk and then...
All right, if I could start, and then I think Councillor Meredith wants to comment. So Council, just to explain the process a bit, Council officers have briefed solicitors regarding this matter and have asked for a peer review of the technical reports submitted as part of the application. The decision to engage experts will be based on the outcomes of the peer review process. But we do know, obviously, this matter is before VCAT.
Councillor Meredith?
While I won't be employing my own people to do the data, I'm always interested in the data for pollution. I find that they're in certain, reading in certain areas and not in others, so I'm always interested in additional data evidence.
And if I may just add on to that, that we councillors were presented with the air quality, traffic and noise reports and unanimously decided to reject that application and proposal. And obviously, as the CEO has mentioned, that's now before VCAT and we'll be awaiting the decision, but we'll certainly have our representatives there. So, any other councillors? No. Okay, we'll move on to question 3. In regards to TP 53/2021-1, a compulsory conference has been scheduled for 17th April, where it is expected that Council will be asked what conditions on the grant of a permit, if any, could be agreed. Does the Mayor think that there are any conditions that could be imposed and would make the development acceptable? And if so, can the Mayor confirm that they will have the final say on and be accountable for any conditions that are agreed at that conference?
Yes, and Director of Planning and Environment may want to comment.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and through you. The report, which was presented to the City Development Delegated Committee in December 2024, contained a range of conditions suggested by council officers to control and mitigate any off-site amenity impacts of the proposal. These conditions would form the basis of discussions at the upcoming compulsory conference on the 17th of April. Settlement of the matter on the day would require all parties, including any original objectors to the application who have been joined as a party to the proceeding, to agree to the conditions. Council officers, through the Manager of City Development, have delegation to settle the matter only where all parties agree.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. It's from Joan Chivillo, who asks the following questions. As part of the recent planning permit objection for the Anglers Tavern to store 5 shipping containers in its car park, Council advised residents that there were only 19 signatures on the petition, whereas in actual fact there were more than 70. How has Council allocated these numbers? CEO?
I'm happy to answer that through you, Mayor. There are 2 separate petitions relating to the Anglers Tavern development. The first petition, which is the one referred to in the delegates' report and circulated to all parties on Thursday the 10th of April 2025, was submitted as part of the public notification period for the planning permit application. This petition was submitted on Monday the 17th of March 2025 and contained 19 signatures over 3 pages. The second petition is the one referred to in item 8.1 of this evening's agenda and is noted as containing 64 signatures. The grounds of each petition are the same and have been considered by Council's delegate in deciding to refuse to grant an amended planning permit. A copy of the refusal notice has been sent to the lead petitioner, which is the same person for both petitions.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. It's by Rosie Goethel, who asks the following questions. Could someone from the Inclusive Communities or Recreation and Open Space teams please meet with Request members to plan a temporary home for members and groups there, which includes disability groups? CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. And council officers are very happy to meet with residents on this matter. Officers have been working proactively with user groups of Shorten Reserve and Rec West to develop transition plans for when the proposed construction commences. Officers have held monthly user group meetings and recently held the first quarterly meeting with the broader community. As I said, we would welcome further discussion with you to confirm the group's needs and possible temporary locations in collaboration with the YMCA, who is actually the centre operator.
Thank you. And the second question is, will it be possible for current Request members and groups to have representation on a community advisory group to inform the reconstruction of Request after its demolition? CEO?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, as I said, officers will be in contact and welcome your group's involvement within the user group meetings for discussions.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Is by Brian Sanderson, who asks the following questions. Question 1. I reviewed the governance report for the last month or so and noted that some councillors attended briefing sessions online up to 2/3 of the time. Given councillors are paid representatives, does the Mayor believe that online attendance is acceptable as a regular practice? Yeah, I can respond to that one. So, councillors attending meetings online are considered an acceptable and contemporary practice, and it's permitted under the Local Government Act of 2020. I'll move on to the next question. Could the council publish the times for briefing sessions, including start, finish, and any break times? This is crucial for transparency. Might give you the...
Thank you for your question, Mr. Sanderson, and yes, we can certainly consider that for future governance reports.
Thank you. And the third question is, could you please advise of any rules that may be in place for councillors attending briefings and council meetings online?
Through you, Mayor, I can answer that. The Local Government Act as has been said, 2020 was amended in 2022 to prescribe that a council's governance rules must allow for councillors to participate virtually in council meetings and delegated committee meetings. Maribyrnong Council's governance rules provide that if a council meeting is to be conducted wholly in person, a councillor may request to attend virtually, provided the request is made in writing to the Chief Executive Officer no later than 10 a.m. on the day of the relevant meeting. Councillors need to specify the reason why the councillor is unable to or not wishing to attend the meeting in person. There are no prescribed requirements for briefing sessions, however, the same principles and practices apply.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Edward Merrifield asks the following questions. Question 1. In respect to Footscray Park, corporate logos have painted on lawn at Footscray Park. Can Council advise how much money Fox Sports paid for the ratepayers, and if not, who allowed this decision or permit to go through? CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. I can confirm there was no commercial arrangement in place regarding the logos on the Western Lawn. Those painted logos are temporary and are being removed currently, and that will have been completed by the end of this week, I understand.
Thank you. Question 2. I was recently at the Shorten Reserve consultation held on 27 March 2025, and residents were informed that club rooms on the ground are receiving $600,000 from the projected $40 million project, which includes $10 million through our member for Footscray, Katie Hall, MP. Can Council provide why the club rooms are now being shortchanged to refurbishment when the original master plan included complete rebuild of the club rooms? Why?
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm sure, as everyone would appreciate, master plans are in fact that and do change as we get closer to doing the detailed design of different projects. So the Shorten and Ballarat Reserve Master Plan 2024 includes improvements to the existing pavilion. Officers have met with Shorten Reserve user groups, and we are hearing your issues around the amount allocated, and we're working through a design solution for the existing pavilion that will meet contemporary sporting facility guidelines and the club's needs into the future. So we are reviewing what we are doing with that pavilion, and thank you for raising that.
Thank you. And the third question is, on the 20th of August 2024, in-ground parking sensors were commissioned to be installed at the cost of $2,840,409. Where have Council had these sensors installed, and when will they be turning the parking meters on, if there are meters in those locations? Do you see that?
Yes, on the 20th of August 2024, Council awarded the contract for the supply and installation of in-ground parking sensors. This contract is effectively for any replacements and installation, as well as ongoing management and maintenance of the sensors. There are around 3,500 in-ground sensors already installed across 6 suburbs, including Braybrook, Footscray, Maribyrnong, Seddon, West Footscray and Yarraville. The majority, almost 2,500, are installed in and around the Footscray CBD. Some sensors operate in partnership with operating parking meters, whilst others operate independent of parking meters. The effective operation of parking sensors is not mutually exclusive of the operation of parking meters. Any future decision to turn on parking meters would be made in accordance with Council's parking policy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Next question is asked by Sarah Puha, who asks the following questions. Question 1, will Council provide residents concerned with the steel cement expansion application the opportunity to meet the Director of Planning and Environment Services, the Mayor and other key people to ensure alignment on this serious issue? And the second question along with it is, can a town hall be called regarding the major issue of steel cement factory expansion, which hundreds, if not thousands of residents are highly concerned about? Community concern is growing and not enough people feel they have had a chance to share this concern. How can Council support this? CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. The application for the steel cement expansion was broadly notified within the community, including direct mail to almost 300 property owners and occupiers. So we had signs on site and notices in the Star Weekly. 109 objections were received, indicating a good level of community awareness. Council considered the application at the City Development Delegated Committee meeting in December 2024 and resolved to issue a notice of refusal to grant a planning permit. The permit applicant since that time has lodged a review from VCAT regarding this decision. As this matter is now before VCAT, Council must remain independent of other parties and will defend its position accordingly. Councillors and council officers would be willing to meet with residents to discuss the VCAT process, but we are not able to discuss the merits of the proposal given the current proceedings. VCAT is unlikely to accept further objections at this stage in the process, with only those who originally objected being able to raise their concerns with VCAT. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So we should just, if I could, I'm sorry, just announce that the live stream, we have a problem with the live stream right now. It's not happening, but we are recording the session. So we'll have an audio recording, but not a live stream, and we're working to see if we can fix that as we move through. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll continue on to the next question by Greg Ashton, who asks the following questions. Question 1, in regards to the improvements planned for Robert Barrett Reserve, I do not see that there is anything wrong with the playground, tables and chairs as they are. As they are only a few years old, why do they need to be replaced? CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. The first phase of community engagement to inform the master plan for Robert Barrett Reserve has recently concluded. All of the feedback received during that phase is being considered and will guide a draft master plan that will be shared with the community later this year. Your comments in this question are noted and will be included as part of the feedback. Council's assets plan considers condition ratings of existing assets and guides future asset renewal and investment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. The next question is, it would be advantageous to address the lighting and include the installation of a concrete pad and basketball ring. Have these been considered as part of the improvement?
Mayor, before I answer this, could I ask that we extend question time?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. So, councillors, do I have your consent to extend public question time? Okay. Thank you. So we'll now continue with public question time.
We usually...
Do we need to vote?
Do we need to? No.
No, we don't need to
We can
vote
do
on
it that way.
Councillors are all agreeing with it, so we'll now continue with public question time for a further 15 minutes.
Thank you. So I think you asked the second question from Greg Ashton,
Yes.
if I'm correct, Mayor. And we would like to thank Mr Ashton for his comments, and this will be considered for inclusion in the draft master plan along with other feedback. So thank you, Mr Ashton.
Thank you. We'll move on to a question from Fletcher Bubb, who asks the following questions. Question 1, in the interest of financial transparency and good public communications, can the CEO please confirm who performed the cost estimates of $100 million and the date of estimates for the Creative West project, which was used in the federal government urban planning precincts grant stream? CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. SGS Economics and Planning developed the most recent investment case for Creative West, which was finalised in January 2024. They were engaged to refine the case for investment and to assess the benefits delivered by the project, which has been adjusted to account for expected inflation. This includes inputs provided by Council, including forecast revenue, expenditure and visitation. Inputs were drawn from a range of sources, including trend data based on current use of council venues, benchmark data for similar facilities, scaled analysis by specialist consultants engaged for earlier project concepts, and contracted quantity surveyors and economic analysis by SGS. The name of the quantity surveyor is not publicly available information. As we've already indicated, the previous responses, the project cost estimates are only indicative and will be refined and released once the detailed design is finalised over the next 2 years. Council has not committed any funds to the project beyond the current design phase. And Mayor, the Director Community Life and I would be happy to meet with Mr Bubb about this if he would like a further meeting.
Thank you. The second question is, could Council please provide an update on the $4 million pledged by the Victorian State Government in 2022 for the Maribyrnong Aquatic Centre Splash Park and water slides, including how much of the funding has been used to date and how the remaining budget will be managed given the revised project timeline following the liquidation of the original contractor? CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. The $4 million funding contribution from the state government has been received, but it has not been used to date. The funds will be used once a new contractor has been appointed, which is anticipated to be later this year.
Thank you. And the third question, regarding the Fox Media spray-painted logos on the western lawn in Footscray Park over the weekend, assuming these are unsanctioned, could Council advise what legal or regulatory action it intends to pursue, including preventative measures towards Fox against using any commercialised media from this situation, and confirm that no costs associated with clean-up or remediation will be borne by residents?
Thank you, Mayor. And I did confirm earlier that there was no commercial relationship regarding this. There won't be any legal or regulatory action because that approach was actually approved internally, not by councillors, and we are now in the process of removing that logo, those two logos, and we will be claiming reimbursement from the owners of the logo to have the turf replaced there. Oh, 6 logos. I'm sorry, Mayor. Thank you. All 6 will be in the process of being taken away at the moment.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, which is by Glenn Yates, who asks the following question. Given the fact that Steel Cement is taking the City of Maribyrnong to VCAT, which will most likely gain media interest, and the fact that council officers recommend that the planning permit be approved contrary to our councillors unanimously voting against the recommendation, can council please confirm that they have engaged with an external law firm and let residents know who that law firm is? CEO.
Director of Planning and Environment to respond.
Thank you. And through the Mayor, we can confirm we will be engaging an external law firm. The details of who have not yet been determined at this stage.
Thank you. The second question is, if VCAT decides in Steel Cement's favour, will the City of Maribyrnong proceed with counter-legal action in support of the councillor's decision from the December 2024 CDDC meeting and uphold the health emergency motion carried by councillors in May 2023? CEO.
That VCAT decisions can only be appealed to the Supreme Court on a point of law. We will explore all reasonable options available should this scenario eventuate. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, which is by Thomas Foreman, who asks the following questions, which will be read out. However, due to the late submissions of these questions, they will be taken on notice and responses provided in writing to Mr. Foreman and included in the minutes. Question 1. In 2023, draft targets were set based on the Victorian Housing Statement. The Maribyrnong municipality is set to increase by 49,000 residents by 2050. This is substantially more than the population forecast in the 2020 Open Space Strategy that is due to be renewed this year. Footscray has previously been identified as a priority area as population growth far exceeds open space assets. What existing open space targets are in place to meet the forecast growth, and will they be sufficient to accommodate the draft target of 49,000 plus new residents? I'll read out all three of his questions as we're taking a notice. Question 2 is the derelict Saigon Market site that's been vacant since 2016 and is now for sale, and I've led a petition for its acquisition to be discussed in agenda item 8.2 tonight. Given the former Saigon Market site centrality in Footscray CBD and long-standing vacancy and amenity impacts caused by the land banking, does Council acknowledge the reputational and community costs of inaction on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? And third question, in 2023, our State MP for Footscray, Katie Hall, petitioned for the derelict Saigon Market site that she referred to in her speech to Parliament as a bomb site to be cleared so that it could be activated by the Council for the benefit of communities such as Park. I assume this would require consent of the site owner or a leasing arrangement. And given that the 2020 open space strategy identified the need for local level and neighbourhood level open space in Footscray, what discussions have taken place between Council and the Labor State Government to fulfil Katie Hall's MP's plan for this site? As mentioned, we're taking those up on notice. So I believe that's the last year. That's the end of public question time. So public question time is now closed at 7:07 p.m. And we'll move on to confirmation of minutes. Agenda item 6.1, confirmation of minutes for 18th March 2025. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Lamb. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Semra. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. We'll now move on to reports from committees. Agenda item 7.1, noting minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, 3rd December 2024. I'll call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Yengi. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. We'll move on to petitions, and Council has received 2 petitions. In accordance with Council's governance rules, a councillor may read the text of the petition but is not permitted to speak to the petition. Agenda item 8.1, petition, shipping containers at 2 Anglers Way, Maribyrnong. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Yengi. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Oh, yeah. If the mover could please speak to the motion. So.
To read it out, okay. That council receives and notes petition shipping containers at 2 Anglers Way, Maribyrnong. 2, that council note that with planning application TP 329/2023, item 2, Anglers Tavern shipping containers being refused under officer delegation in April 2025, the Chief Executive Officer is unable to consider or respond to this petition at a future meeting as required by clause 54.14 of Council's governance rules, and therefore note that no further action is required by the Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, and I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. I put the motion to a vote. The motion is carried. Agenda item 8.2, petition, create green open space in Footscray, urge government to buy Little Saigon Market site. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Semra, would you like to read out the petition?
Got it. That council receives and notes petition, create green open space in Footscray, urge government to buy Little Saigon Market site, and request the Chief Executive Officer to consider the petition and determine the appropriate response.
Thank you. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. I put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Agenda item 9.1, Revenue and Rating Plan 2025 to 2029. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Yengi. I call for... Councillor Yengi, please read out the motion.
To present the reviewed revenue and rating plan 2025 to 2029, the plan for consideration by council prior to being released for community engagement. Issue, do I read the issue summary as well? Do I read the issue summary as well?
Mayor, I don't think that's the recommendation that's written. I think that's part of the, I think what Councillor Yengi is
Yeah, that's okay.
read out is the purpose, not the
Yes.
recommendation.
Got it. Thanks. That council endorsed the release of the reviewed revenue and rating plan 2025 to 2029 as shown in attachment 1 for the purpose of community engagement.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi, and thank you, Councillor Thomas. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Okay. Would the seconder like to, would the mover like to speak to the motion? Carried. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion? Sorry. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Nope. Yes, Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I really just want to say that this is the revenue rating plan for those who are listening tonight, not watching. It outlines a whole lot of information for people about exactly how council obtains its revenue and in what ways and how that's applied. So it goes through things like the different ratings that we apply, so the residential rating, but also commercial, industrial, and we apply an additional rate to vacant land, whether it's residential or commercial and industrial. So those property or landowners pay a higher rate. It also outlines the municipal charge, which is rated to every property. The waste service charge, which I note is hasn't been increased for this next coming financial, or proposed not to increase for this next financial year. And there's a couple of rebates that have been applied as well for pensioners and I think a residential land rebate. I've just forgotten. But there's a lot of information in there. And it also, it outlines the fees and charges as well. So people can see how council is, going to allocate fees and charges to the services and that it provides to the community. So encourage everybody, of course, to have a good read of it so that they can more fully understand how council puts together its budget based on the revenue that it receives. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Agenda item 9.2, consideration of the proposed budget 2025/2026. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Semra, would you like to read out the recommendation?
That council approve in principle the proposed budget 2025-2026, exhibits the proposed budget 2025-2026, invites feedback on the proposed budget and hears any person who has requested to be heard in support of their formal feedback on the proposed budget at a meeting to be held on 26th of May 2025 at the Town Hall, corner of Napier and High Street, Footscray. 3, note the proposed budget 2025-2026 includes passing through the rate cap of 3%, which is set by the Victorian Government, a municipal charge of $20 for each rateable property for the rating period, no increase in waste service charge, an increase to the council's pensioner rate rebate of $670, a drawdown of $7.28 million from the open space reserve for open space improvements, and new capital and asset improvement investment of $46.139 million to maintain, redevelop and improve services and assets. 4, note a report on public submissions and recommendations to adopt the proposed budget will be considered at the council meeting on 17th of June 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Semra. I'll call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Lamb. Would the mover like to speak to the motion? No. The seconder like to speak to the motion? Just put your mic on, please.
So very briefly, it's regarding about this yearly budget, looking for the community consultation. We can see that no increase in waste service charge for this, and I would like to the community have a good look at it and give us some thought and how we're going about that. So we have some input from the community consultation. That's a bit great.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Yengi.
I'm going to make this really brief, just to say that we've been quite, I guess as a collective group, quite intentional with this budget, and just wanting to recognise that, you know, it is a really tough economic climate at the moment, and there's a lot of challenges impacting our community, and these are challenges that council is not immune to as well. And despite all this, we've presented a balanced budget, but just really wanting to note that no services in this budget have been reduced, and really, I guess with in response to what Councillor Lam has suggested also, just really wanting to urge the community to provide input when this goes out for consultation, because we're really, really keen to hear from community and to, you know, look at what we can take in, and also, what improvements can be made for the next financial year after this one, potentially.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Councillor Yengi said about the no reduction in services and presenting a balanced budget this year, and just how difficult it was for councillors to make those decisions given the current economic climate that council finds itself in after, I think it's the 10th year of rate capping, which really has had an impact on our revenue. And I'd also just urge people, if the budget proper is a little bit too dense for people, there's also the companion budget, which does outline things in sort of more of a plain English way, and explains, where the capital money's going, where money is going across the wards, breaks down the services a little more easily for people, I think, and particularly the capital works as well. And it also contains a gender equity statement and a climate emergency statement for people who might be interested in reading about where money is being directed for gender equity projects and for climate emergency projects. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any other councillors? Councillor Pereira.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep. Okay, good. I just wanted to thank the team very much for putting this together, and the revenue and rating plan, and going through it with us in over several sessions. There's 5 new councillors, and it might have been a little bit more exhaustive than previous years, but we really appreciated the case studies and examples presented to us, and also for the community to know that those people are also very accessible through consultation processes. So please reach out if you want more information about the revenue and rating and the budget. And we understand that we desperately need more investment in the West for essential infrastructure and services. And so I want to thank everybody for their contribution to our collective community wealth. And so please reach out with budget submissions so that we can make sure that this budget is really reflective of our community needs and values. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Any other councillors? That's good. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. We'll move on to agenda item 9.3, New Horizons Creative Maribyrnong 2030. I'll call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Lam, would you like to read out the recommendations?
Yep. That council, number 1, noted the feedback from community and stakeholder on its draft creativity strategy, and number 2, endorsing the Maribyrnong City Council's creativity strategy, New Horizons Creative Maribyrnong 2030, shown at attachment 2.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, sir, briefly. This is a very interesting project for the Maribyrnong City Council. It's a smallest local government area, but it has a diverse population in Victoria, about 40% of residents born outside Australia and represented about 140 countries and speaking over 130 languages is according to ABS 2021 indicated. And this is a strong multicultural community playing a significant role in the area reputation. It's an innovative centre of the creativity and the culture. So of that, in 2030, there will be a number of significant residents moving and reside in Maribyrnong. So the council's role needs to be provide appropriate services to the community, to the resident, from all residents. And the council must do something creativity for everyone, and this is like what the project looking and talking about. So I hope the community have a good look at that and provide some further more feedback on what would you like us to do for you.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion? No. Yes, please.
Just briefly, I love this strategy. I think it's a really good direction for the council. I'm a huge supporter of the arts and the creativity, and there's a lot of creative art people in our community, and I think they will really enjoy participating in future events and exhibitions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor. Maribyrnong has enjoyed living within a creative community for decades now, and we've got many creatives who have lived here for a long time, but also many who, have moved to Maribyrnong consistently, over the last 30 years because of the focus that we have on the creative arts in the West. I just want to say that I think I'm really excited by this strategy. I think it's going to kind of take us into the next evolution or the next iteration of what it means to be a creative in Maribyrnong, and also for council's support of creatives across Maribyrnong. We've got many stakeholders who contributed their expertise into this strategy, and so I really want to say thank you to all of those people who gave us their feedback and input, and particularly the young people who I think we did a second round of consultation specifically with young people. I agree with you. I think we need more live music here. I think somebody was quoted as saying that. But there's also a lot in here just around enabling and supporting and opening up physical spaces, but also sort of networking spaces and spaces for relationships to grow, and for creatives to continue to grow across our city. And thanks to the officers who did a lot of work putting this together. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any other councillors? Okay. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. We'll move on to agenda item 9.4, Geographic Naming Proposal, Recognition of Late Sarah Carter. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Lamb, would you please read out the recommendation?
Yep. Office's recommendation that Council number 1 approve in principle the proposing naming of the Sarah Carter Kindergarten for the newly developed kindergarten, which form part of the Maribyrnong Community Centre, number 9, Randall Street, Maribyrnong. Number 2, endorse the commencement of community engagement, which will include publication in a local newspaper, a notice of council's website, a survey on council's online community engagement site, Your City, Your Voice, and a survey sent to surrounding property. Number 3, following completion of the community engagement process and subject to no objection being received, formally endorse the proposed name Sarah Carter Kindergarten and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to submit the proposed name to Geographic name Victoria for registration. And number 4, note that if one or more objections are received following the completion of the community engagement process, a further report will be presented to Council outlining objections and recommending next step.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Semra. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, briefly, Mayor. You might recall that in March this year, a report was presented to Council seeking endorsement for acknowledged former Mayor and Councillor Sarah Carter to various initiatives, including that naming proposal. So it's a part of that. It's coming tonight to here today. And I am supporting in approving the principle of that and naming a Sarah Carter Kindergarten. I have an opportunity to working with her for 8 years and for 3 times mayor. And she's a dedicated person, the community, very intelligent young person to work with, role model for the young women to follow her. And she's a doer person. She will follow for what she did. When her and I was mayor and deputy mayor, I know that I have been working with her very closely in that regard, and I wholeheartedly support that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion? Councillor Semra.
So Sarah was a 3-time mayor, and in her time, she used a lot of advocacy to raise important issues to the surface of the political debate. And also in my role as a community member, I came across Sarah a few times, and she was very supportive of young people, empowering young people and children. So I think it's fitting.
Thank you, Councillor Semra. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Yengi.
I'll make this really brief. I just wanted to say that I think it's an honour, for us to be here today to consider this proposal in honour of Sarah Carter. Although I didn't work with her closely, as somebody who resided in her ward, I'm very familiar with her work, and I know that she achieved a lot of amazing stuff for the whole municipality, but in particular fought really hard and worked tirelessly for River Ward. So I guess I'm also really thrilled to be representing River Ward at the moment as well. And, there's a lot that's been achieved in our ward that probably wouldn't have been possible without her tireless effort. So, yeah, just really honoured and proud that, we have the opportunity to honour her tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. And I'd just like to quickly add that for the benefit of general community, that in the last council meeting, we asked our officers to write to the Geographic names Victoria for their registration as we ran into an issue seeking their consent. So I'd just like to commend the officers for acting on that very quickly. Thank you. So if there's no other councillors speaking on that, I'd now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. We'll move on to agenda item 9.5. Consideration of planning permit application at 70 to 100 Ballarat Road, Footscray, Victoria University, Footscray Park campus. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Yengi, would you like to read out recommendation, please?
That Council advised the Minister for Planning that it supports the planning permit application PA 2403450 for buildings and works associated with construction of an education centre, clinical health teaching facility and new campus gateway with associated signage at 70 to 100 Ballarat Road, Footscray, subject to recommended planning permit conditions outlined in attachment 1. 2, that Council advise the Minister for Planning that it supports in principle an amendment to the Maribyrnong planning scheme to enable consideration of a future planning permit application for signage at Victoria University Footscray Park campus. 3, that Council note that the Manager, City Development, will forward this decision and relevant internal referral comments to the Minister for Planning via the Department of Transport and Planning. And 4, that Council delegate to the Manager, City Development, the ability to provide comment on any revised or updated plans regarding this proposal to the Minister for Planning via the Department of Transport and Planning, provided these comments do not fundamentally alter Council's position. And 5, that Council request the Chief Executive Officer to write to Victoria University's Vice-Chancellor seeking a meeting to discuss initiatives to increase public and active transport usage and management of car parking.
Thank you, Councillor Yingi. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Semra. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
I mean, really, it's just to say that, you know, Victoria University has been a pillar of our community for a really long time. It's basically the only university that services the West, essentially. So I think any opportunity for Council to support more engagement, access for our community to education is probably, yeah, an opportunity, you know, worth supporting. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, this new facility once it's developed. I understand that we're expecting to see increased students, not only locals, but potentially being able to support international students from, you know, disadvantaged countries to potentially come and study here as well and get some very important qualifications that they can take back home to support, you know, capacity development in their countries.
Thank you, Councillor Yingi. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Just to reiterate Susan's point, VU has been a staple in the community and has been a leading institution, voted #1 in Victoria for student experience, ranked #7 in the world for sports science, teaching and research, and it is a representative of our community and the diversity within our community and across the western suburbs. Over 90 cultures represented, and I'm excited about the opening of the new Footscray Hospital and the vital role that VU as well as Western Health are going to play. And I also understand that in 2023, VU provided 48% of Western Health's nursing graduates, and I'm proud that it's within Burndap Ward, continuing to build the capacity of young people and create that inclusive space.
Thank you, Councillor Simra. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Moving on to agenda item 9.6, Governance Report March 2025. I'll call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Lamb, would you please read out the recommendation? We'll start again.
The Council noted the March 2025 Governance Report.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. I'd call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved.
Seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Thank you. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Moving on to notices of motion now. Agenda item 10.1, Notice of Motion 2025/03 Ventilations Tax. Councillor Thomas, would you like to move your notice of motion?
Thanks, Mayor. So the motion is that Council 1 acknowledges that residents of Maribyrnong and the Inner West have a right to breathe clean air, and as such, Council declared a health emergency in May 2023. 2, reaffirms its position that the state government must install air pollution control equipment on the Westgate Tunnel ventilation stacks to protect the health and wellbeing of all Maribyrnong and Inner West residents from day one of its operations. And 3, writes to the Minister for Environment asking him to A, direct the Environment Protection Authority to set up a conference of interested persons to allow residents and air pollution health experts to present new evidence on why the Westgate Tunnel project's ventilation stack should be filtered. And this should happen before the EPA issues an operating licence to tunnel operator Transurban. And B, direct the EPA to comply with the Environment Protection Act's 2021 General Environmental Duty and take a prevention-based approach to protect environmental and public health by using available technology to reduce harmful ventilation stack emissions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Semra. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion? Oh, I'll ask. Just before I get onto that, are there any points of clarification? Councillor Yengi.
Thank you. I guess I just wanted to ask a question, if possible. And so just noting that I guess since we've been elected, the Mayor has already written to the Minister to advocate on the issues of the stacks, and obviously we declared a health emergency back in 2023 because Council acknowledged the issue and wanted to highlight and advocate on this issue. I also know that the Mayor has committed to keep having conversations regarding this issue in the monthly catch-ups that he has with our local member, Katie Hall, and who's also committed to continue advocating on this issue and other issues for our local community. But also acknowledging, I'm getting to the question, sorry, but also acknowledging that, currently there are existing formalised and structured processes in place that residents and experts are able to utilise to engage with the Minister, the local MP and the EPA, and to be able to present new evidence. I guess I'm just trying to get a bit more clarity, and I just want to make sure that we're really clear with this motion on what we're asking for, just to ensure that we're using to ensure that we're not using Council's resources to duplicate an existing process and or reinventing the wheel. So I guess ultimately I'm just trying to understand, particularly with the establishment of a conference of interest. I know that under Section 236 of the Environment Protection Act, a conference of interested parties is basically is essentially a public consultation process. And so given that that's happened in the past, and I know that there was recently a public consultation process that was carried out on the 2nd of April by the EPA, and I know that there's some outcomes that have come out of that. I guess I'm unclear on how what we're asking for on this differs to what's already being done and how we're advocating at the moment, but also if under the Section 236, that conference of interested persons is considered a public consultation, are we asking for a public consultation, or I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're asking for, if that's all right, if I can get clarity on that, and how what we're asking for differs to what's outlined under Section 236.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. Councillor Thomas, before I invite you to speak, did you get that question of clarification? That's a short question.
I can try and make it a bit more succinct.
I've got it. No,
So
it's okay.
I'll actually invite you to speak to your motion if you want, Councillor Thomas, first.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, or if you want to answer Councillor Yengi's question, that might be, is it easier?
I'll probably do both at the same time.
Thank you, Councillor.
If that's okay. So what the motion is asking for is to write to the Minister to use their powers under the Act to set up the conference of interested persons. So Council hasn't done this before. Our advocacy has been more in the past has been more general around, if I can just put it, please state government include filtration systems inside the ventilation stacks. There hasn't been anything specific to setting up a conference of persons or to using the general environmental duty. So taking that precautionary based approach to this piece of infrastructure. The EPA public consultation on the 2nd of April was simply a drop-in session. It wasn't a consultation process. If we're going to be serious about consultation, then the EPA must run an actual consultation process and not just have one drop-in session, which was very difficult to get to for people on one afternoon of one day of this year. I think in a bid to kind of try and head off the community advocacy around this, to be honest. It's not good enough. So I think the minister needs to step in to use his powers to open up to a process to allow the community to present information that they do have. The community hasn't stopped working on this. They haven't stopped gathering evidence from overseas and from interstate. And they'd like a chance to present that to government, basically, but it's at the minister's discretion. So this is different to what council has asked for before. It's a very specific ask about opening up that process to setting up a conference of interested persons and to ask the minister to follow their government's own legislation in regards to using the general environmental duty and take that prevention-based approach. That's my answer. That's my answer to the question, and that's my speaking to the motion. So I present the motion to councillors for their consideration.
Okay, sorry, can I just reconfirm? So we're asking for the minister, I just want to make sure that we're clear on what we're asking for. We're writing to the minister, but we're asking the minister to direct the EPA to set up a community consultation per section 236.
We're asking the minister to set up a conference of interested persons under the Act, however, whatever that may look like, so that the community can present the information that they have. So we're not dictating what that looks like. We're asking the minister to use their powers to allow the community to bring information into the process.
Okay, and can I just clarify, do we know if the community to date hasn't been able to provide evidence to the minister, like via the existing formal processes and channels?
So yes, the only process that the community has been advocating on this for at least 10 years, I think. So yes, they go and talk to their local member and they say, you have to speak to the EPA. The EPA has the discretion, or the Minister for the Environment has the discretion. So the community has used all of the avenues that are open to them. They advocate to every minister that has any kind of road-based or environment or public health-based responsibility, I suppose, for this issue. So they have used every available avenue. This is probably the last available avenue, is using, asking the minister to use the legislation that's available to him in this very kind of direct way, I suppose. So I'm very confident that the community has exhausted all the avenues, and I think council has a responsibility to continue to support the community in this way.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Like I said, just wanted that clarity to make sure we're really clear on what we're asking for and we're not duplicating an existing process already.
Thank you, Councillor Engie, and thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
I'll just say thanks, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Engie. I think it is important that we, advocate for community, but also not try and duplicate any processes and stuff that's happening through ANOM. But I think this is an additional layer to the body of work that's already been done. But yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Semra. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Meredith and then Councillor Pereira.
I'm supporting this motion. I think it's clean air is a basic human right, And I think that we need to be mindful of what it is that we're putting in the air, polluting industries. We can help by putting filtration in those ventilation stacks, and I'd like to see that done before it's opened. We're living in a climate emergency. We've declared a health emergency. We've done all the right things, and we just need that support getting us over that line and installing those filters. I think clean air is a right, and we have a duty of care to protect this earth for not only ourselves, but our generations coming up. Like, that's our duty of care, responsibility.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. Councillor Pereira?
Yes, I'd also like to just add that this motion aligns with Council's commitment under the Climate Emergency Declaration and the Health and Wellbeing Plan and Health Emergency Declaration and Air Quality Action Plan. And it's essential that the stacks are filtered to prevent the creation of yet another concentrated air pollution hotspot. And both the residents of Maribyrnong and our neighbours in Hobsons Bay deserve that. Our communities deserve clean air, and we must take every opportunity to prioritise public health and environmental responsibility. And at the very least, our communities deserve to be fairly heard on this matter that affects them and their health and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Well, I might just add something for one, maybe the general public, just to hash what Council has been doing for this entire issue. So in May 2023, the City of Maribyrnong declared, as many councillors mentioned, a health emergency, as the City of Maribyrnong has some of the worst health statistics in Australia, including the highest hospital admissions for young people with respiratory illness at 171% higher than the national average. Most recently, Council has undertaken a number of advocacy initiatives which have included letters to the Minister for Transport, Infrastructure, Gabriel Williams, and Environment Minister Steve Dimopoulos, requesting meetings to discuss the ventilation stack filtration have been sent this week. Since mid-2023, Council has written to Premier Jacinta Allen, Minister for Environment Steve Dimopoulos, MP, Minister for Transport, Infrastructure Danny Pearson, MP, and Minister for the Port and Freight Melissa Horn, MP. These letters have requested the inclusion of filters in the Westgate Tunnel filtration stacks. This is in addition to other meetings with the government and key stakeholders to discuss air quality improvement. Whilst in 2024, the state government stated that the Victorian government's position remains the same and that the Westgate Tunnel's ventilation system was designed to meet Victoria's air quality standards. The response states that the air quality measured were approved by the Environment Protection Authority, EPA, as per their assessment, and that the filters are not required to meet air quality standards. Further to that, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Pereira and Councillor Meredith and I attended Clean Our Air rally held by MTAG on Sunday, 2nd of March down at the Yarraville Gardens advocating for the stacks. And more recently, myself and other councillors, at least Councillor Meredith, attended the EPA consultation session on 2nd of April at the Brooklyn Town Hall in Brooklyn, which is open for residents' questions, councillors and everyone in the general public between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m., 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. And we as councillors answered many questions on the advocacy of our council. I, for one, certainly appreciate the time that the EPA staff gave for the 5 hours, and there were many of them. So I just wanted to add those points that have happened since 2023, at least. So any other councillors would like to speak to the motion? No? Okay, I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Agenda item 10.2, Notice of Motion 2025/04, Les Twentyman. Councillor Lam, would you like to move your notice of motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Before I move this motion, could I just ask...
Sorry, Councillor Lam, just push your mic on and restart, please.
Sorry. Yeah, before I move this motion, could I just ask the government in terms of, it's an error, Les Twentyman OAM? Could we add that, please? This is the title. Okay, thanks very much for that. Okay, Councillor, Mayor, I am speaking to support this motion, and hopefully you can support me as well. But tonight, that we have Les Twentyman widow, Mrs. Cherry Kuhn, is here tonight, and okay, sorry, I'm too quick. Who's going to say it?
Councillor Lam. So just before you get into that, I am just going to ask a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Semra. Now, Councillor Lam, I invite you to speak to the motion.
Okay.
My apologies, I didn't want to interrupt you. Please start again.
That's all right. Sorry. It's a shame that live stream is not on. Okay. I'm speaking to support this motion, and hopefully, you can support me as well. Tonight, we have Mr. Les Twentyman's widow, Mrs. Cherry Kuhn, and staff from the Les Twentyman Foundation here tonight as well. Also including a friend of the Les Twentyman Foundation, Vietnamese Community Association, the president, Mr. Nguyen Nguyen, here as well, and some volunteers. A little bit background about Les. He raised in the western suburb of Melbourne, dedicating his life to helping young Australian people from social disadvantaged background to find a positive future. He remained today Australian best known youth worker and a social justice warrior. I have able opportunity to say that have known Les for many years, I think more than 20 years, and found Les is a very friendly person, dedicated and down to earth. He was the founder and he want the young person to have their right. And regarding where they go to any services from government, he's there. He's there to support them, accompany them, and I have seen that. So Les is also passionate advocating for the community sport and youth participation. He was a well-known, successful footy coach across the western suburb of Melbourne. He was also a passionate supporter of the Western Bulldog Football Club, and he played a significant role in the rallying community support to ensure the survival of the club when it was facing potential merging with Footscray in 1989. Les Twentyman will be remembered as one of the great Australians as a Victorian of the Year, and he will be remembered for being awarded to the Order of Australia, as I said, OAM before, having helped up on 1,000 of young West Victorians to a better life. Through his dedicated and experience working with the strict, the Les had developing expertise on the range of community issues, including youth homelessness, drug abuse, prison reform, school refusals, keeping kids in classroom and a courtroom, and social justice issues. So Les, evident that he gave a voice to the voiceless. And I really admire him because as a refugee myself, that I think, he's an amazing person who helped people from diverse cultural and linguistic background, and particularly in the western suburb of Melbourne. For more than 40 years, he was constantly advocating for early intervention service for at-risk and the vulnerable young people, just as he was also advocating for having a qualified youth worker in every school. More than anything, Les wants every young person to have a level of playing field. Les was regularly called upon by senior members of the government to discuss youth and the social issues. He was the first stop for media outlet for the word on what was happening on the street. And he, accompanied by the Governor-General of Australia and the government ministers and leader of industry on visit in the dark street of Melbourne. And Les was also a friend of Dalai Lama. I remember 2011. And the Dalai Lama visited Les to see firsthand the work Les was doing with at-risk vulnerable young people, and at the Federation Square, right in Footscray, the centre of Footscray. So Les passed away on the 3rd of March 2024 and was farewell at the state funeral on the 16th of April 2024. One of the former councillor and I was there. In attending at his farewell there's a Governor of Victoria, former Governor of Victoria, the Premier of the state, together with many former Premier, the Deputy Premier of the state, other government minister, Mr. former Mr. Bill Shorten, representative for Prime Minister of Australia, and many other state parliamentaries. Victoria Police, Fire Brigade, Ambulance Victoria, and State Emergency, Mayor, senior representative of local government from across Melbourne, instantly recognising personality from sporting, entertainment, and the media world, and many hundred of an ordinary Victorian were there. At the funeral, there was also a personal message read out from the Dalai Lama, who's grieving a loss of his friend, Les Twentyman. Following his death, the Les Twentyman Foundation maintaining his vision and legacy to continuing his work with young people from at-risk and disadvantaged background. So Les Twentyman positively changed the life of so many young people. I can see if you have time, you can come and visit the foundation, see what they do. And the guy is coming from Braybrook area. It's the area of the Maribyrnong. So it's called Les Twentyman, incredible person. And he was the person with the social justice person, and raised up in the western suburb, Braybrook area. So I hope you can support my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Could I please request you to read out the motion? Read the motion out down the screen.
I'm so excited. Okay. Now, my motion that Council consider naming a meeting room at the Civic and Community Hub in honour of the late Les Twentyman OAM in recognition of his enduring contribution to our community.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion? Councillor Semra? Yes.
Les Twentyman impacted thousands of young people, and I happen to be one of them. When I was a child, I played for the Foundation's basketball team under 12s and 14s, and basketball was more than just a sport for me. It kept me out of trouble, gave me an outlook, gave me discipline, and provided a sense of belonging, where I made a lot of lifelong friends. It taught me life lessons that go far beyond the court. The programs that Les built not only helped young people stay focused, but also instilled values of teamwork, perseverance, and community. I'm proud to see the Foundation continue to thrive. It's clear that Les's legacy is alive and well, and I'm grateful for the lasting impact it's had on the community and the wider Western region. Renaming this room in his honour is not just about a name, it's about recognising a man whose work continues to inspire, guide, and uplift. So I hope Les Twentyman's legacy lives on for future generations through this room.
Thank you, Councillor Semra. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Yengi?
Just wanting to echo a little bit of what Councillor Semra has said around Les and the really important work that he's done in the community for decades and decades. I met him a few times, and but more importantly, I have worked with a lot of the young people that had been involved in a lot of his programs. I know a few athletes, and to be specific, basketball players, some of whom are now playing in the NBA, and some of whom are now playing in the NBL, who I know wouldn't have gotten to where they are today if not for having been involved in Les's programs. And when I was growing up living in Adelaide back in the day, we used to come to Melbourne for the school holidays and used to attend quite a lot of the basketball tournaments out at Rec West in Braybrook, a lot of which were supported by Les. So yeah, I think just echoing some of Mohammed's words, he has been a pillar of this community, but not just Maribyrnong, in the West in particular, and I couldn't think of someone more deserving to receive this recognition here tonight. So I'm really honoured to be able to, be a part of this process, I guess.
Thank you, Councillor Singhi. Any other councillors? Councillor Singhi, sorry. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. I think this is the time for questions or clarifications. Is
Sure,
that right?
clarifications, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And I totally echo what the three councillors have said about, Les's wonderful lifelong contribution and his the legacy that will, live on for many, many years across the western suburbs. And when council in April, I think it was last year, approved, naming the Youth Award in Les's honour, I thought that was a really a completely fitting memorial to him and his work and his legacy. I'm a little concerned about the proposal for a meeting room at the Civic and Community Hub, and I'm wondering whether Councillor Lamb would consider another space across the municipality that has more of a, I guess, a closer link to the work that Les did. Perhaps a basketball court or room or somewhere in Braybrook, or something similar that has that link in the same way that the Youth Award has a very direct and clear link to his legacy. I'm wondering if we might be able to change the location so that we've got a space not just in the community hub but perhaps at Rec West in Braybrook, so that there's a really lovely clear link between the site, naming the site, the place name of the site, and Les's work.
Can I answer?
Yes, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I think I have thought long and hard about this. I think he worth more than that, and I think this room here, I remember that last year I also put a motion regarding about the Youth Award and to the Les Twentyman Award, and recently we just had the event. However, I think the room at the council is appropriate for him. He worth more than that. So, but I don't think the basketball court or anything like that will be appropriate. Thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
Could I just ask another question, perhaps of the CEO or one of the officers? Does this need to go through the geographic naming process, or is that not applicable in this case?
Through you, Mayor, we're not naming a building, so the proposal is naming a room and a building, so it won't need to go through the geographic naming process.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Lamb. Any other councillors? Councillor Pereira.
Yeah, I'd just also like to add that I'd like to see genuine acknowledgements and recognition shown through this process, and I'm very supportive of a basketball court at Rec West being named after Les Twentyman and his amazing contribution, and I would love to see a room at the Civic Precinct dedicated to civic participation of young people in our community, but I think we have more work to do in order to ensure that that's not a tokenistic gesture. And I think that more work has to be done, and it needs to be done with young people first. I'd like us to delay this item and resolve it in a fitting way that recognises Les Twentyman's work in a way that's meaningful and connects with young people and to a sense of their belonging and community and civic participation.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Any other councillors? Well, I might just add that I just wanted to take a moment to really appreciate that we have a councillor who was under Les Twentyman's program. So thank you, Councillor Semra, for sharing your story. It was very insightful. I really appreciate that. So I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? All those against?
Can I call for division, please?
The motion is carried.
Yes.
The motion is carried. Yeah.
And then, excuse me, Mayor, yes, you're correct, the motion is carried. the councillors asked for a division, so that requires the councillors who voted in favour to put their hand up so they can be recorded individually, and the same for the voted against.
Sure. So the councillors in favour are Councillor Pradeep Tiwari,
Councillor Cooklam,
Councillor Semra,
Councillor Yangi.
and the councillors against.
Councillor Thomas.
Councillor Meredith.
Councillor Pereira.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We move on to councillor question time. Councillor question time is managed in accordance with council's governance rules and limited to 15 minutes, unless councillors consent to an extension. Are there any councillor questions? Councillor Meredith?
Yep, I've got two questions, but I'll just go with one. And what advocacy has been taken to address safety concerns regarding vehicle speeding along Hopkins Street? Specifically, has council advocated for speed enforcement measures such as red light cameras, or considered the use of vehicle-activated signage?
Through the Mayor?
Yeah, so yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to respond, and councillors, this council and the previous council have undertaken a lot of advocacy around this. As part of the active transport advocacy strategy, council has advocated for the delivery of improved pedestrian, bicycle and public transport infrastructure along Hopkins Street. In July 2024, as a result of council and the community's ongoing advocacy, the Minister for Roads and Road Safety announced a speed reduction between Moore Street and Hopetoun Bridge to 40 kilometres an hour. Additionally, Dynon Road between Kensington Road and just east of Docklink Road was reduced to 60 kilometres an hour. Council continues to engage with relevant stakeholders, including the Department of Transport and Planning and Victoria Police, to assess potential speed enforcement issues, and certainly works with our local Member of Parliament, Katie Hall, and the relevant ministers, Melissa Horne, Minister for Roads, and other relevant ministers on this matter. The council has used speed radar signs successfully in some locations across the city to help manage speeding. Due to the high traffic volumes in this location, the effectiveness of these types of initiatives is limited, but we can certainly take this up again with Department of Transport and Planning, Councillor Meredith, to see if we can get some movement. Council will continue to explore alternative solutions with the state government as the responsible road authority for Hopkins Street to improve road safety for users.
Thank you, CEO. Did you say you have a second question, Councillor Meredith? Did you have a... Yes, please, yep. No, that's okay. You can ask.
Okay, my second question, it's like a bit of a statement first and then followed by questions. So land banking in central Footscray remains a significant barrier to the area's revitalisation and livability. With 22 key sites sitting vacant, some for well over a decade, these long-term neglected properties have become eyesores, discouraging economic investment, diminishing the quality and function of the public realm. Some of these properties appear to be used primarily as financial leverage through negative gearing to fund development elsewhere, rather than contributing to the regeneration of Footscray. Developers have chosen to retain these as capital while allowing them to deteriorate within the heart of our community. My questions are: is Council investigating ways to activate these sites, including the use of local laws to address their neglected condition and support interim community use? And B, has Council directly engaged with landowners to encourage development or appropriate interim activation? C, what advocacy has Council undertaken to the state government to address long-term land banking and support tools and just support?
Thank you. And CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. And Council does continue to proactively work with key landholders of a number of vacant sites to facilitate action. And even today, the Mayor and I were discussing how we might move forward with some of that on some of the Joseph's Road empty sites. This includes some of the things we are doing. We've set up a successful creative spaces pilot program in central Footscray, which saw underutilised commercial properties in Footscray CBD turned into affordable creative spaces and galleries to activate the CBD. We have some landlords that have come on board with council to help that happen, and any landlords that happen to be listening tonight, we are very happy to extend that program. In August 24, Council raised the issue of vacant land sites at the M9 parliamentary event held at Parliament House. It was attended by MPs from all parties and CEOs of Homes Victoria, Development Victoria, Sustainability Victoria, and at that time the Victorian Planning Authority. The Maribyrnong submission raised the issues of several large underutilised lots of land containing unsafe or derelict buildings and their impact on local housing growth and city amenity. It was noted that many of these sites have approved planning permits for housing and commercial uses, but despite this have not been acted on. Council had previously opted not to extend these permits, but was overridden by VCAT, ensuring these sites unfortunately remain vacant for several years to come. In May 2023, Council wrote to the Minister for Planning regarding land banking. The points raised included VCAT appeal rights, preventing the revocation of permits, and consideration of increased land taxes for vacant properties, consideration of new regulations in the planning scheme covering safety concerns with derelict sites. One of the City of Maribyrnong's biggest vacant area is the 128-hectare Maribyrnong Defence Site. Council has a bespoke advocacy strategy for this land to be activated, which asks for state and federal governments to ensure the planning and development of this site includes new homes, jobs, open space and community facilities. This issue has been raised on several occasions in letters and meetings with relevant state and federal government ministers. Most recently, in February 2025, the Mayor and CEO met with the Minister for Planning regarding a range of planning issues facing our city, with land banking being one of the major discussion points. And I can report, Mayor, and you were at that meeting, that the Minister showed a certain understanding of our issues in regard to land banking. In February 2025, Council wrote to all major landowners within Central Footscray with active planning permits, reminding them of their obligation under the General Purpose Local Law 2015 and to offer assistance in temporarily activating their sites until the substantive development allowed by their permits is to commence.
Thank you, CEO, for that. Any other councillor questions? Councillor Thomas, just before we start off, how are we in our 15-minute time bracket? Are we going for time or do we need an extension?
Okay.
We're okay? Okay. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor. I've got two as well. So the first one is about, just want to ask perhaps you and the CEO about a letter that Council received from Boroondara Council about supporting changes to how trees are pruned and managed around power lines, so that we sort of stop that, what appears to be extreme sort of hacking of trees, and we know that that's a huge issue for our community, and particularly in reducing urban heat island and giving some cool shade to our streets. So I just wonder whether you could just let us know how Council will respond to that letter, sort of in the affirmative, I guess.
Thank you. I'll let the CEO respond.
I'm sorry, through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I am aware that the Mayor has received that letter, and he has asked officers to prepare a response. This initiative by Boroondara is something that Council has supported previously in terms of our climate emergency and our tree canopy. So it's not something that the council has disagreed with, and we are preparing a letter from the Mayor to Boroondara to show this council's support for that.
Great, thank you. And the second thing is, it's not a question, it's a statement. And I just wanted to say thank you to one of the directors who's leaving us very soon, Lisa King, the Director of Corporate Services. And I just wanted to offer my thanks, having worked with her for just over 4 years. As a councillor, I've received excellent advice and recommendations and support from Lisa, and I just wanted to extend my thanks, and probably perhaps on behalf of other councillors as well, just to say thank you for all of your work for Maribyrnong community over, I think it's over 20 years that you've been with council in various roles, and just wanted to wish you all the best in whatever comes next for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Are there any other councillor questions?
I said from all of us as well to Lisa King, and all the best for your endeavour.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. We'll move on to urgent business. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? No? Okay. So we'll move on to confidential business. And I advise councillors that there are no items of confidential business. I have an announcement, and as Councillor Thomas and Councillor Lamb have picked up, I just wanted to, before we conclude tonight's meeting, we just wanted to do a special acknowledgement that I want to make on behalf of the entire council. I'd like to farewell Lisa King, Director of Corporate Services. This is Lisa's final council meeting, and I'd like to acknowledge her 21-year contribution to the Maribyrnong City Council. So thank you very much, Lisa. I think you deserve at least a round of applause from us. And thank you to people in the gallery, and especially Les Twentyman's family, for attending and sitting throughout. It's almost 8:30, so thank you for sitting with us. So that brings us to the conclusion of the meeting, and I declare the meeting closed at 8:18 p.m. Thank you, everyone.